Hi, welcome to these Open Security Summits in October 2023. And we have Louis for the part 3 of threat modeling Kata, which is a really amazing concept that a lot of people should be following because it's all about practicing, it's all about, trying these things and getting a lot of amazing momentum. So, Louis, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dennis. So this is Louis Servin. I'm an application security expert, have been working in this area of knowledge for a long time now, over 10 years, 15 years almost. Yeah, probably more 15 than 10. I have been doing threat models for such a long time. Oh, I should change the title. Sorry for that. I promise not to. Okay, wait. So it's just the title that I need to change. So again, I have been in threat modeling since the 2010s. I have been threat modeling many different systems as a consultant, as an in-house expert across different fields. I worked for a long time for an automotive company, and I had the pleasure of being the first person to create a security assessment, a threat model of factory, shop floor, look at automotive systems, bridge over knowledge for threat modeling from IT into the automotive domain. But we're not discussing that. So that's just a bit of background. What we're discussing is threat modeling. And because the topic of this session or this round of the security summit was serverless architectures, I decided to, hey, let's do a serverless architecture threat model. Why not? And as I was preparing this, and I had already chosen the case and I was doing everything, I had a very interesting conversation with Dennis yesterday on a panel we were sharing, discussing how to enhance our threat modeling capabilities through something like ChatGPT. So I took the bait and I decided to try to do some threat modeling on a serverless architecture and enhance my superpowers or my abilities, no superpowers, enhance my ability to become a superpower by using ChatGPT. So I hope ChatGPT doesn't make me look like a fool. And I did try a very simple rudimentary prompt, but I want to have the real prompt with you. But first of all, let's discuss what we're doing. So feel free to interject with a comment or something. I'll try to keep them open. Let me see, how can I open the comments? Chat here. So if you have any questions, drop a question into the chat, and I'll make sure to answer as fast as I can. All right. So threat modeling, I like Brooke Schoenfeld's definition the most, is a technique to identify attacks on a system. Attacks a system must resist, and defenses that will bring it to a desired defensive state. So no chances. Based on business value, we defend more, we defend less. And I chose the title of Kata based on this martial arts practice of performing a set of choreographed movements. If you ever took karate, for example, katas are part of your examination to move from one belt to the other, and it's the higher up you go in the rank, the more complex the movements are, and katas give you a way to perfect this or construct this so-called muscle memory. So I'm not inventing the term of kata for doing technical work. Actually, there's a lot of previous work. I like to take the architectural katas from Neil Forth, and I think he took the concept from someone doing development katas as well. So there's, I could say, at least 10 years of katas as a concept for IT systems. So I could advise you to look into that if you want to test or flex your engineering muscles. Was I showing the right presentation? So kata is this symbol from Japanese. It could be actually two symbols, and it means form. Okay, let's move to the next one. Threat modeling, just in case no one knows about it or someone doesn't know about it, is basically a 4-step process. The first one being understanding what we're building, modeling the system. The second, analyzing the threats, identifying what could go wrong. And the most important step is actually the third one, which is mitigation. The requirements, the things that need to be added on top to solve the threats that we identified, or the vulnerabilities and threats. So one common concept that we see is difficult for many people is to differentiate between a vulnerability and a threat. And I would like to use the opportunity to say a vulnerability is a characteristic of the system. It's perhaps a negative characteristic, but it's something that belongs to the system. And a threat vector, an attack, is something that exploits this vulnerability for malicious purposes. And cross-site scripting is an attack vector, not a vulnerability, just out of principle. It's an attack technique. The vulnerability is taking input from an untrusted source and presenting it to the user where it can be interpreted as code. And the fourth step, which is validating the outcome. So is the architecture, is my understanding of the model in step 1 correct? Are the threats I identified and the vulnerabilities present and reachable? Is the mitigation correct, complete, or should I add more or take some? And for this session, I took a system from a tweet. So someone was, let me see if I can find the tweet. Give me 1 second to see if I had it open. Let me see if I have the tweet here. Yeah, I have it here. So
can you just quickly paste that content in the chat?
of course I can. So I will put it in the slides as well. So
yeah, but just put it in the chat. Just copy and paste. Just stop.
Fantastic. Yes, it's there in the chat, of course. So I took from Raul Junco this definition of a kata. So he's giving a kata for development. And he's saying, okay, I need a system to manage books. And he goes on to describe it. So, and it looks very simple like that. So basically, I took his definition and made a couple of slides just to have it more present. So what are we building? What is our target of analysis? It's a bookshop. In the bookshop, we'll have books, we'll have customers, we'll have orders and payments. Not too difficult. Only authenticated users can make orders. A customer can have many orders. An order can have many order items. An order has 1 payment. An order item is 1 book. Easy peasy, right? Now, connection to the database, he says use an entity framework or Hibernate. Let's say we use Java, we use Hibernate to connect to the database and map code entities, code classes to tables. So we delegated that, and Hibernate will manage the database connections, and we will create some REST endpoints. So we have get books to get all books, post books to add a new book, which is only accessible to the admin, delete books and the book ID to delete a book by its ID, and it's the admin. Get orders, get all orders. It's something only the admin can do. Post orders is create a new order. Get orders with an order ID is to retrieve a specific order. So as a customer, I can look at my order and see which books were included in the order, and I can post a payment, process a payment for an order. So that's what we've got. And now we say, okay, we have an authentication using JSON Web Tokens, which means there is an identity provider, which will allow my customers and my administrators to log in, identify themselves, gain a token to authorize themselves to make calls to the backend system. He says configure Serilog. I have no idea what Serilog is, but I will say configure log4j in Java for logging, and the logs need to be managed by AWS's log management service. And there will be unit tests and to test that the endpoints are working, integration tests. And that's about it. I mean, we can look into the database and all that. So the point here to start is, and the first challenge always is, where do I start? So do I jump right into the details, or do I want to spend some time looking at the database, or at the case in order? And do I have all actors represented in this solution? So what I usually do, let me stop sharing my screen and share my well, I can share it here, so I have to work over there. So let me share my GitHub. I have if you want to follow along what I will be doing, you can follow on GitHub. Give me just 1 second. To add the link here. So let me post it on the chat. So on GitHub, LF Servin, OSS threat modeling. Just lost the chat window. Where's the chat window? Chat. There's the chat window. So if you go to this GitHub, you will find. So let me put it on the slides to make sure that everyone has it.
Yeah, Tom, we're only seeing your slide, yeah?
You're still seeing my slide or not?
Yeah, we're only seeing the slide, the top, yeah.
All right, give me a second. I thought you were seeing my. So let me add 1 slide. So dot files. So that's the repository where you can find the exercise we'll be doing. So you can clone it. Let me share my screen then, not just the file. So share the whole screen. Share. Now I will put my VS Code on the screen. Can you see my VS Code?
Right. Yeah. You can, yeah.
Was that a yes or a no?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
All right,
box,
perfect.
Bookstore.
Yes, so I started creating a very high level diagram in which we have a customer, an API, and then let's make the database. So I create. There are instructions on the repository to use this .json file that generates these handy functions I am using, so you can use it. I will create one without images to simplify development. So this is my DB, and this is my database. It's RDS PostgreSQL, and here we store and serve book and customer data. So basically what I'm using is the GraphBiz language to create graphs, graphical representation of graphs. These elements you see here are called, like in any graph, nodes, and the links between the nodes are called edges. So basically what will happen is that I have also HTML. I could enhance this with the images from AWS, but I don't want to spend time finding out the image. So I'll do them without images. Cognito, this is my identity provider. And this is I made a mistake. Provides.
So this is thread model.
Pardon, I couldn't hear you well.
Just the
So I'm just trying to model. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to model the system as it was described. So I'll go back and right. So the first step in thread modeling is the understand the system. So model the system. So what we have is the user, right? That's oh, the customer, not the user. Sorry. So I have.
Sorry, have you pushed the code to GitHub?
I'm developing as we speak, right? So
Okay,
the
'cause that book's
repository
called
I mentioned
yeah.
has the exercises from the previous iterations and has the base file to create these dot images.
Okay.
And as we speak, I am updating the file. So this is not yet committed. I can commit it right away so that everyone can have it. And then from there, we can start working together if you want. So give me 1 second to commit the code. I'll commit it right away. Customer talks to Cognito, label equals. So this is provide username, password. This goes over HTTPS and that's it, right? So I will receive provide username and password. So we can see that the customer is, as I type, the image changes. So I have the first relationship, provide username and password. Now I can, as a customer, talk to the API. And I can say label equals make requests. And this is all, again, protected with HTTPS and a JSON Web Token. So so here we have an initial representation of the system in which we have the customer talking to the API, the customer talking to Cognito to get the identity. Now, this doesn't seem complete, right? There is something missing here. I don't usually talk to an API, do I? So in order to be able to talk to the API, I need to talk to something else that gives me the access to the API, which sends me to Cognito to authenticate. So let's say I have a single page application somewhere. SPA, no, not shape. SPA is my single page application. It's React, JavaScript, and this is provides the UI for the user. So I have a single page application, provides the UI for the user, and obviously the customer needs to talk to the SPA. Label equals get the UI. And this is over HTTPS, but it's not secured with a JSON Web Token because this is basically me going to Amazon and reaching the page before authentication, right? The single page application will be the one running on my browser, which will redirect me to Cognito to authenticate if I need to authenticate for buying a book. And then at some point, something has to talk to the database. So the API will be talking to the database and the API will be talking to the database. Label equals, let's say, get, write data. It's unencrypted and admin user password. So that's how we're connected with admin user and password. I'm obviously creating a vulnerability on purpose so that we can find something easily, right? And this is a very high level view of what could go wrong. Now, there is something missing here. What is missing? So I can make orders. How are books getting into this thing? So I need an admin user, right? So now I have an admin user, or I need an admin user. So I'll just copy the customer and paint it in a different color to make a difference between, or maybe not yet paint it in a different color, but let's say customer. Now, and it's not the customer, but my admin. And now I say admin. Admin is a person internal to the company. Bookstore admin. The bookstore admin has the function of updating dating. So let me zoom in so that it's visible what I'm doing. Updating catalogs. Or rather than updating updates, that just updates catalogs. Checks orders. And what else was this person supposed to be doing? So this person was also supposed to be doing adding books, so managing books, deleting books, posting and deleting books, getting orders. Those are the three specific functions. So let's see. Update the book catalog, updates book catalog. Delete book. And checks customer orders. But there was something else missing, right? So what am I missing? So I have get books, post books, delete books, get orders, post orders from the customer, get orders. I'm missing the payment, post payment. So I need to add a payment provider now. This is an architectural decision that's hard to undo. I can choose to do payment transactions myself, or I can choose to use something like Stripe. In my case, I could use a payment provider, not to bother with credit card data. So in this case, I will take a system outside of Amazon, say HTML out. So I make it gray to make it visible that it's out of scope. I will not analyze the gray stuff. I don't care about the gray stuff. I care about how I integrate with them, of course, but not how they do the business. It's a different process, vendor requirement, security, whatever, but not in scope for the threat model. So I could say Stripe. Stripe. Come on. Stripe. It's a payment provider. I could think of it as a SaaS, as a software as a service, and it manages payments with credit card. Returns a transaction ID. All right, so I have the things that I need to be able to operate. Now I need to mix them. So I need my API to talk to Stripe. And it will send vendor ID. Send vendor ID, send what else will I send to it from the API. So we can see the line gets generated automatically. I don't have to generate it myself. API sends the vendor ID. What else does it do? It sends the vendor ID and the amount. Sends the vendor ID and the amount. This is an HTTPS connection with an API key. At least that's how in my mind it works. I have no idea exactly how Stripe works, but I am assuming here that Stripe works this way. Now, I have a high-level context diagram. I still need to put my admin to talk to my API. And here I will use this label, and this label will allow me to manifest the intention of the connection. So let's say the admin updates book catalog and checks orders, and this connection is done over HTTPS with a JSON Web Token as the authentication method. So as you can see, the diagram grows as I type. The diagram updates as I need it to update. So I don't bother myself with creating it in a visual way and moving things around, for the reason that it's a lot easier to have a bit of text, which I can keep in version control, which control the creation of this file, but I can diff them. I can do a lot of things that make life a lot easier. So I can help readability by providing a tab here and making everyone basically use the same length, and it's a bit easier to see the relationships here, but that's just a basic readability linting thing. And the diagram is relatively simple, so there's no need to do a lot of work to understand it, and we capture the whole scenario. Now, what are things that I could worry about? I could worry about injection. I could worry about many things. Now, we can also say, well, this will be hosted in AWS. This will be made up of lambdas. Every API endpoint is a lambda. And I'm not sure if you know Daniel Miessler. So let me put on the chat the link to Daniel Miessler's page. 1 second. So there we have it. And then I need the other browser. 1 second. I'm posting it in the chat. Where's the chat? There's the chat. So here we have the link, and for simplicity, I have summarized what he says on how to use AI, how to shape or what he calls prompt engineering. So he has a 7-step process. Let me put it over here. Come on. Thank you, you're so helpful, but I need all your help. OneNote. So basically he says, okay, tell ChatGPT who you are, tell the system what format it will produce, give it the task, give the steps, tell it exactly how you want to look, the output to look, show it one to five examples of ideal output, and tell it what to include or not include. So I was preparing this session by creating this step. So basically, what we're saying is, you're an application security expert, threat modeling a system. You will identify possible vulnerabilities, threats in which the vulnerability can be exploited, and propose one or several countermeasures to avoid the vulnerability or prevent or detect the malicious action. The output will be markdown table with the following fields: ID, component actor, vulnerability, threat scenario, and countermeasures. The system is hosted in AWS. The code is managed in GitHub. GitHub actions push the software into production. The system is a single-page application. On the front end, the system consists of a single-page application, which the user downloads. The single-page application written in React interacts with the REST API calls in JSON. Users redirected, authenticated. The single-page application is stored in an S3 bucket. Requests are first landing in CloudFront, then on the S3 bucket. We use Cognito as the identity provider, and we can do identity federation with Google, Facebook, Office, and LinkedIn, so that our customers can log in more easily. And on the cloud side, we are fronting our API with AWS's API gateway. Here, the JSON Web Token will be checked, and everything will be forwarded to a Lambda. The Lambda is written in Java, or the Lambdas, plural, are written in the Java. They interact with the database using the Hibernate framework. RDS Postgres instance is the database, using what I told you, the database admin to connect to it. We can add to that over an unencrypted connection. The password is configured as an environment variable in the Lambda function. The connection is not, oh, I already had it. Okay, well, I can get it out. The connection is not configured to be encrypted, so we can remove that one.
This is a great prompt, man. You have to share it. It's really cool, especially if you can then abstract just the bits, right? And just have the bit where I fill this bit here.
Well, it's I mean, I'm following the recipe from Daniel, right? So it's
I know, but it's a good practice. A good model.
I mean, let's see what comes out. So I just finished typing this thing. I have no idea what will come out of it. So I hope ChatGPT can run it, and if not, then
put it in the chat and you run it on your paid account. Are you using 4 or 3.5?
The free one.
Okay, so then also put that on the chat, then I'll run it on, or push it to GitHub and I'll run it on 4.
All right. Let's see that. So I'll commit this to GitHub as well. The application has these user groups. So we have a customer, which is external, an admin, which is internal. Logging, we use log4j to produce logs. Logs are captured and stored. Log entries are used for monitoring and debugging purposes. We can say they're captured and stored in an S3 bucket, so disconnected from a log processing mechanism. So I'm introducing a vulnerability into the system to see if it's caught.
Yeah. But can you see how cool it is what you're doing right now? You are describing the system. Right?
I am. I mean, it's the same thing we already had, right? So I'm just...
I know, but it's very different because in the past, remember even the case we were talking yesterday, what would happen is you would spend some time with the engineers, with the developers, with the architects, and you would have this in your head, but you had no place to capture it or persuade. There was no place that you would capture that you get a good reward from it. So you probably wouldn't capture it. Where now, what you can do with this is you can write this, and even if it's going to the dev team and architects going, hey, is this correct? There's already a lot of value in it, because we already starting to map the things, and then you apply the security analysis on it. But you could also apply performance analysis. You could also say, hey, find me, usability problems, find me bottlenecks, find me, disaster recovery problems, find me performance and let's say single points of failure on the architecture from a resilience point of view. So there's a lot of interesting other questions you can ask, not just the security ones.
All right. Sure. Definitely. I agree with you. I mean, there's a lot of value here, right? So I'm just kind of creating my prompt. So let's see. I have created the persona. I have asked for the format. I have given the task. I have given the steps. Well, I have given the description of the system. I have told it how I want it. Now it tells me it wants 5 examples or 1 to 5 examples. So let's create 1 example. Okay. Let's say again, the output must be a markdown table and skip the preamble. I don't want it to blah, blah, blah me. Skip the preamble. The ID field is a counter used to uniquely identify the fields, the vulnerabilities and threat scenarios. This is an example. So that means I could create something that looks like this. I said I want ID. I want the vulnerability. I want I just mentioned it here. Oh, the component actor, of course, to know where the vulnerability is present. So let's copy that thing and put it here. The ID, Control V, the component actor, the vulnerability, the threat scenario, and the countermeasures. Now I say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a markdown table.
You don't need to provide that. You're going to do it automatically. Don't worry about it.
Pardon?
He's going to do the table automatically. You don't need to do that.
I know, but I'm following his recipe in which he says, give it an example of ideal output, right? So I'm going to create a very good credible attack vector to have it. So I would say API, insufficient authorization checks. An attacker abuses the lack of sufficient authorization to elevate his rights to admin and reduce the price of an item. Countermeasures ensure authorization checks are done at the API gateway and the individual function. I'm just quoting the ASBS by heart.
Yeah. Well, the other thing we could have done eventually this is we could also feed it a large chunk of the SVS. I mean, we could also say here's the all of the SVS or the SVS that is relevant to this part, then pick the ones that in a way are relevant.
All right, so I have all of this. Now I will copy paste it into GitHub so that Dennis can run it in parallel. So give me 1 second to put it in GitHub. So Dennis, here you are. So let me add the file explorer, OSS threat model.
You're going to put that on the main branch, or you're going to put it
on the bookstore Kata. So okay. I have not committed yet. I will commit everything right now.
Okay. Yeah, so that branch is not there, right? So you're going to put it up.
It's not yet there. Yeah, exactly. So
Cool. All right.
add
Good
the
stuff.
file. Prompt. Markdown. And book. Oh God, what did it do? What didn't it copy the thing? All right, try again, feel better. Control C. Control V. Okay, not again. Let me see if I can tweak it somehow better. Copy. Copy. Paste. Okay, I have no idea how to copy paste it then. Oh, I can try to put it into, okay, let's see. Control C, I'll put it into ChatGPT. So here's ChatGPT. I have a new session on ChatGPT 3.5. Let's see if I can put it here. There it is. So now I can select it from here, post it there. Now it worked. So that means I can now commit and paste. So give me 1 second to commit and paste. Okay, I think I have too many things. So give me 1 instant to move this to the other side. So I will add this into the.
By the way, what's really brilliant about Louis, what you're doing here is I think you're really capturing, I would call the essence of threat modeling. Because I think a lot of people go, oh, threat modeling is like, it's complicated stuff and all this. Is like, no, like literally, this is almost the state of the art of threat modeling, right? Like we're still figuring out, we're still mapping the things, and then we're connecting the dots, right? So this is exactly what happens in the real world.
Yes, that's. I mean, it shouldn't be hard, right? So oh, it has something.
Yeah.
I mean, it has very few things. I could have expected a lot more. I mean, it gives me a starting point, right? So at insecure storage, an attacker gains unauthorized access to the S3 bucket, storing the single page application, tampering or data theft. Implement proper S3 bucket controls, versioning. Not bad. I mean, easy pick. Identity provider, identity spoofing, impersonate forging authentication tokens or weaknesses, enforce MFA, not bad. Regularly audit and rotate secret keys, monitor and log authentication events for suspicious activities. Hey, fantastic. So far, so good. An attacker provides a forged or expired.
Have you uploaded the code to your thingy? So
Pardon? No, I was
just do it quickly because then I can.
I was just too eager, but I'll do it right away. I was just having so much fun. Give me 1 second to do it. So git add bookstore Kata. All right, I have it. Git commit bookstore Kata. Git push. No trouble. So you could pull now if you want.
Okay. Well, I'm going to grab it just direct from the website.
So let's see. API insufficient JSON Web Token validation.
Oh, so you upload to main, yeah? Cool.
I uploaded to main, yes.
That's fine.
I just had a branch, not a branch, but a directory for bookstore.
Cool.
I'm developing it myself, so it doesn't I don't have to do a lot of
that's fine.
complicated stuff here and it's all text files, so it's not too bad. Nothing will break if I corrupt my own repo. Let me export the file. 1 second.
No, I got it. I got it. It's already generating.
All right.
Already.
So you can perhaps I don't know if you can create a link or make a pull request to see the output. So I'll just basically,
I can share my screen.
or you can share your screen even better.
Yeah. So I'll share my screen. So you got those. You got 9. All right. Let me share my screen. Yep. Continue this. Okay. So where's my so I was trying to find. And what I'll also do is I'll show you some of the tricks. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen, ChatGPT.
Yes.
Cool. So you got application, system experts. You got this, right? So API endpoints. So there you go. Look, Lambda database, vulnerability users, admin account and encrypted DB connection, right? So these results.
Which is better. That one was not found by this one.
Yeah. So you should be interested to compare both, right? Because this should be a little bit better, right? You know, the 4 in this kind of things, 4 has a lot more better context and understanding. So look, use IAM roles for accessing the database, single page application, expose the blue token. That's quite good. Oh yeah, there you go. So we give a token. So look, HTTP only, that's quite good measures, right? You know, cognitive
Not bad, it's not bad.
can control over Google. So that's API gateway, rate limitation, denial of service, GitHub.
Oh, you have more things because you have GitHub Actions. I didn't get any GitHub.
Yeah, access to Git repository. So there's 2 ways you can tackle this. So I'll show you a couple of tricks, right? Lambda environment variables, API endpoints, logs in S3, testing CI pipeline, APIs communication, right? Where was that vulnerability that we put in? That was by default that you put unencrypted. So
unencrypted communication between the Lambda and the database, and we were using admin database connection between the Lambda and the database.
yeah,
and that wasn't found, right? So it does help you get the low-hanging fruits.
Yeah, but for example, like what you can do for here, so this is, we could say, great, can you focus on the connection between the, what was it, with the 2 elements?
Between the Lambda and the database.
Between the Lambda and the database, right? So let's see. See, there you go. See? So one of the things that is really worth doing is going bit by bit. See, so now we picked it up, right? See, Lambda to RDS connection, unencrypted connection. Data in transit could be intercepted by an attacker doing encryption. You seeing that?
I see it. I mean, that's the last step in the recipe from Daniel, right? So that's why I like Daniel's recipe so much, because it gives you a very good way to create the prompt, and then a very good way to tweak the output, which is exactly what he's saying, right? Tweak the output, focus it on where you want to focus. So it gave us a very good first pass with 10 findings on something, but then we can start focusing on the API. We can start focusing on the S3 buckets, on the log collection or lack of log collection, etc.
Yeah. So there's 2 ways you can do this, right? You can keep improving the prompt here. One gotcha, which is a hack, is that remember that there's still a limitation on the prompt size. So eventually, if you keep doing this, you'll notice that ChatGPT will start to lose data because the prompt size is always the same, right? So one trick that you can do is you can edit this one here. See what I mean? So I'm going to edit this guy, and I'm going to say, so for example, you have countermeasures. I could also go, let's say I'm going to go risk level, probability, right? Actually, see, I don't even need to do that, right? I could also go, can you also add to the table above, risk level, probability, attack, agent, and let's say impact, right, to business. See, so what's cool about this, right, is that now you should create a wider table, right? So you could see that, expand the table, so increase that. See, look, there you go, see? See what it's doing?
I know. Looks nice.
And then the thing about this, right? And by the
No,
way,
the question here is, okay, you have a probability medium, but a high level risk.
yeah,
So we have to understand the likelihood of occurrence, right? Because risk is a vector, so it
yeah,
requires two numbers, right? An x and a y. So we have
yeah,
the probabilities, the y, but we are missing the x.
we do. But I always say that depends on the attack agent, right? You know, or the attacker, right? Because whether you have that attacker or not. Do you know what I mean? So because if you don't have internal attackers, then the probability of some of that stuff is happening is quite low, right? Like for
Yeah,
example, this one
not
here.
between the lambda and the database, right?
Well, between the Lambda database, if you don't have internal attackers, it's going to
Yeah,
be
but
very
I
hard
mean,
to be
you have
there.
here a high attacker, right? So you have a
Well, the risk is high. See, look, so for example, for that one, the Lambda database. By the way, I have a trick. I just, I take a lot of my. So I created a little. Let me share my screen again. I have a little JavaScript which I'll share with you, right? But that basically allows me to do this. Can you see that? So I have a little script that just makes ChatGPT bigger because it's really annoying that it's quite limited, right? So I have a little JavaScript that I can run on a page that hacks the UI, right? And see how nice this is.
I know.
Yeah.
Better.
So you can see. So in that example, you got the Lambda database, right? Yeah, it's high, but it's because you have external attackers inside a thread, right? So if we, but then you got Cognito, you got that. So I can now say, great. Now, can you recreate the table? And this is one of the things I always find that when I do threat models, I never like to mix external and internal, like different type of attack agents, right? Basically, who's your sort of who you're defending from, because they will be different, right? And also your risk metrics should take that into account. So I prefer sometimes to create the same threat model, but from different points of view, because everything becomes a lot more realistic, right? Because if the business is going, okay, so I'm really worried about attacks from the outside, then you go like this, because sometimes you might go, well, the insider thread can do a whole bunch of other stuff. So this is not, this could, yes, you could do this, but you probably can do even more things, or it depends where you are. So I could say, look, now can you recreate the table only from the point of view, right? The table only from the point of view of external attackers with with no to, I say, low to mid-level skills, right? So again, I'm not saying state actors and stuff like that. So now it should be able to refocus a lot of this. Do you know what I mean? The what's it called? The high, mediums, and lows should now be reclassified on those, because now that's what I would expect. See, so and
But
that's interesting.
it included new things, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, it was that there in secure direct object references. Was that there?
No, it was.
No,
Oh yeah,
there you go.
it's there. I see there. Number 3 or 4, number 2 or 3.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, from an external attacker, and we can classify this. So we can also say, what is our classification for this, right? What's our classification for from this? So that's quite nice, right? Because it remove actually a bunch of the ones that are not immediately exposed from those skills. See, so he's a lot more focused. S-Cloud Front, Cognito, API Gateway, API expose sensitive data, and GitHub if he gets exposed. So, so this is pretty cool. And another thing you can do here, you could also say, actually, we can go back to the first one, and again we can edit. So I tend to do this quite a lot. Sometimes edit the original prompt, And you could say here, can you map, in fact, see, look at this. This should actually work. Can you see what I'm asking for?
Stride category.
Yeah. So it should. This is where the T from the sort of the GPT part is super critical, because it should now go to Stride and it should give it. Look, see. How cool is that? It should
Not
give.
bad, not bad.
It now understands what Stride means, right?
I know, but do you know how many times I have spent half an hour, hours of my life discussing whether something falls within this or that category of Stride, because it's such a bad
Yeah, but that's
a threat
yes.
category that I tend to skip it. But I see the value in this. I mean, I would rather map it to KPIC, which is like a lot better.
Cool.
Rather
All right.
than
All right. Okay. How do you spell that?
CAPEC, KPIC.
CAPE. Like that, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, the script that I was talking about, sorry, just because I got some bookmarks that I want to share my screen. I'm recording.
While you get there, we have a question. So
cool.
Mel Drews is asking any predictions or thoughts on how enterprises could make use of similar techniques now or in the future, considering with consideration to concerns for sending organizational applications, security data to some AI. I think that's part of the risk equation, right? So having
but that's kind of addressed
models
already.
in-house.
But that's already addressed already, because if you look at OpenAPI, Azure OpenAPI, and if you look, for example, at Bedrock, look, put it this way, if your organization is not using AWS, then you have bigger problems, right? For example, if you're using AWS, then AWS already has a mode where you can use Claude 2 that is locked. And if you're using, Google Cloud, it already has Vertex that is locked. And if you're using
Azure also, right?
And if you look at
Azure
Azure,
has some sort of ChatGPT internal thing.
Correct. It's not. I think there's a couple of variations, but it already completely addresses, I think, Mel, that point, right? Because and there's an interesting argument here where the better we create the prompts, the better we create the materials, the less powerful model you want. So, in fact, if you really want to go private, use Llama 2, right? And Llama 2 is already pretty good. And again, you can run that completely in your environment, your data center, your local machine, and there's even different models of Llama. I haven't fully run it, but some guys I was talking to, it's about between 3 and 10 grand a month. So, depends on what size of the enterprise. It's already a reasonable cost, and it's going to come down, right? Again, depends on usage, right? If you have one person using, maybe it's a lot, but if you have a lot of developers, and if you really have those requirements not to send things very widely, then that makes a big difference. So yeah, let me just share my screen to see the output here. Cool. Can you see? Yeah. So there you go. Right? Is that better for you?
So KPIC is really the better mapping thing rather than Stride.
Yeah. Now the thing about this is that this is what the guy that was doing the attack gen thing is that sometimes ChatGPT does get these. You tend to get more the IDs wrong than these mappings here. So what you can do is you can feed it to it, right? So you can actually feed, for example,
you can ask it to put the link, right? Now, if it's linked, you can just click and check the mapping.
Look, see, there you go. That's the one, right? Common attack patterns classification, right?
Yeah, yes, it does.
And then, but the other thing you can do with this is you could also say, see, look, I don't know if you've seen this. So I could also take this, and I can basically go to go a new one, right? And basically I can use the advanced data analytics, right? And I can then say, I was actually playing with this, and you can basically say, can you create a visualization, right, of this application from a threat model point of view. So in principle, it should, this is the one that has the code, right? So so basically you could see that it's actually, first of all, it's going to create the table with probably a bunch of issues. In fact, I could have probably given the other issues, right? See, so it's doing that, but this is the one that has the advanced data analytics. Have you used this before?
No, I don't have a paid subscription, so
Yeah.
my company is not yet on ChatGPT. I'm actually supposed to be doing the analysis for the risk assessment, but when I'm done with that, we might be able to use it. But I mean, right now I'm on my private account, just trying things that have no relationship to my company, right?
It's really worth doing this because this part here, it is quite impressive. And sorry, I'm just saying.
I assume based on the description, you could also ask it to rather stop right where we told it to create a table and tell him or tell it to create a I don't know, mermaid diagram or
exactly. That's what I'm going to do now. So you see, look, see the risk
diagram.
levels. Okay, so basically, it done this bit, right? You got the thing, and now you can go. Great. Can you create, let's say graph visualization of this data, namely the data slash application flows. So you should be able to now. This is the one that has codes, right? See, and you know, the interaction. So you can see that now he's mapping, right? He's interact single page, authentication sent to Cognito, success authentication, the user receives a JWT token, API requests are routed to the API gateway. And my point with all this is that we should still have this should be verified, right? But this is the one that actually writes the code. See, so you're using matplotlib with network X. It's going to create a graph. See, look, there's the nodes, there's the edges. Can you see? Use it.
I see the edges.
Bang, bang, bang. It's adding the edges. It's drawing the network, getting some labels to it, access or request returns, and then he's drawing the network. And then when he raises bugs like this, so he's going to go, and then sometimes it's funny, right? He goes, oh, it doesn't exist. I should be using this one. It's like, oh, why didn't you do that in the first place? But the other thing that is sometimes really cool is if you have APIs that can do this, you could also ask it for the code to execute in your end or the functions to execute in your end. And you could also give it code samples. But the logic is that it just gives you that acceleration, right? It just gives you that extra mappings, and there you go, right? So there's one visualization.
I mean, it's something.
Yeah, and so you can actually map it up, right? Now, the one I was playing around before is like, for example, you could also ask to do a plan to ML. So you can say, hey, give me the plan to ML codes for this. And in your example, remember that you already had some of those modules. So you can say, hey, here's the building blocks that I want. Now use those building blocks to do it. So I think once we package this a little bit more, it's going to be super powerful. And remember that it's also about helping, let's say, you or the more expert threat model person to review the materials. So imagine you being on the receiving end of this, but also you now communicate in prompts, so you can capture what your knowledge in prompts, or are you making the original prompts better, which is that much more efficient.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, this has just so much potential, right? It's incredible what can be achieved.
Actually, the other one that you can do, let me show you this, is while you were doing that, let me see if I can load it up here. I basically asked, yeah, it's kind of, yeah, okay, give me a second, see if this works. You kind of pause in the middle, but see, the other thing you can do, check this out, is you can take your diagram, look at this. So what I did is I took this one, see where you were, literally a screenshot of your stuff, and say, can you write a thread model for this application? And you wrote this, right? See?
Not bad.
Phishing attacks, denial of service attacks, API vulnerabilities, you know, this, this, you know, this, you know, so it's not bad, right? Maps the thing that you have there. So, yeah, actually the other trick, oops, that you can do, which I also think is insanely powerful, is I was trying to recreate the whole thing. The other thing you can do that is also crazy powerful is we could also take that table. See, look. So this is I think this is really cool. So I can take this table and look. I'm just copy this, right? So I'm just gonna copy literally this stuff, and I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm literally just gonna paste that whole thing and say, "Hi, can you review and find blind spots?" You know, spots in the thread model below. And you can literally just paste it like that. See how I'm not even formatting it correctly? But in a way, ChatGPT can interpret that way better than we can. See, so this is what I think is really interesting, is when you do something and you go, hey, can you find blind spots? Can you look at other things that we could be looking at?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, this has a lot of potential, right? It's basically the beginning of how to do threat models with enhanced by AI. And I mean, looking at this from the business perspective, I am creating a security champions community right now.
Yeah.
And I don't have a lot of security expertise in the company to do threat models brilliantly. They will get there sometime, but this can just turbocharge everyone's abilities.
Exactly, right. And also I think you could also, you know, drive a little bit the whole thing of I was thinking of, you know, of collaborate and teaching and getting people to use OpenAI, right? And ChatGPT, because you're also teaching them. Because look at this. So I can now, can you create a business analysis, yeah, to provide to a business and project owner, right? To make the business case to spend time addressing these issues. I mean, so now look, create a compelling business analysis, right? So brief, and there you go, right? So, okay. So what is actually giving me? Okay, so this is a structure approach. This is cool. You know, look, so you can see introduction, executive summary, introduction, analysis, financial analysis. This is a good, not bad. So it gives you the thing. Now, great. So now, can you write one adding, add lib, can you write one based on the data provider, right? So now it's, it will draft a business one, right? See, look, so now it's going to give you a text that you can rewrite and you can basically apply. See, so that's blah blah blah, and the grand tour landscape or threat model and 5 vulnerabilities, right? Look, see, bang bang bang, and then so this is now you start, and if you even know better who you're going for, you can start to really
you can describe the person's role.
Describe the person, right? So you can then you can say, great, but that is too long. Can you give me the same with max 1 paragraph, right? See? Yeah. But now, cool. So now you go.
I mean, this is the kind of feedback that you could give a human and be punched for, right?
Yeah. But
because someone would have spent hours doing this, and then you say, come back with 1 paragraph.
Exactly, right? But that's the thing. In the past, this is my point. My point is, in the past, right, this would be really hard to do, right? Because we do all this stuff, and it's super painful to do, right? And now you can go, okay, can you write that 1 paragraph, right, for somebody that has no idea what cybersecurity is, right? So you can now start to trick it, right? And then you could see that the language changed, right?
I see. I see.
And
No, I agree. I mean, this
you know,
new world of ChatGPT is fantastic, but we definitely need to check the output, right? So it is going
yeah,
to
but
write for you very easily or very long text. Now you
yeah,
need
but
to check them and make sure that they actually
absolutely.
match what you want to say.
But that's the point. The point is that I think where people get in ChatGPT wrong is that they're shortcutting the last step. And the point is that it's not about shortcutting the last step. The last step is still there, or even the intermediate steps. The point is that the recreation of the materials is now super easy. And like you said, you can go from big to small to change to multi-languages to adding mix or say, oh, here's the language that we're supposed to do. Or by the way, here's this analysis, or here's a project report, or whatever. You can add lots of bits of data in ways that in the past, would make it very expensive because you have to go back and rewrite and think about these things, right? So you even little tweaks, you can say, oh, don't use language like this, don't use words like this, use words like that, right? And then you can rewrite it. And that's the key. The key is the feedback loop now of creative materials is actually a lot more, which is, really powerful. And if you look at the Kata stuff, I think it's really worth exploring, that onboarding, that practicing, that, I like the fact that we can now create even games, right, on this. In fact, look at this, right? So actually, let me give a really cool example. If I start from here, right? So let me take it from that guy there.
You're not
right?
sharing your screen just in case you're showing something.
Sorry. So if I start from, look at this example, right? So I'm gonna take that example of where we were. Actually, Capex, see where we were? Where we got that list, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, okay, so can you now create a game and the set of questions and answers to teach a new developer, right, how to do thread modeling?
Thread with a T.
Yes. Yeah, oh, sorry, yeah. Although you actually would pick it up. Thread modeling.
I'm not sure. Thread and thread.
Yeah. Okay.
End up doing
but it understands the context. That's the other cool thing.
Okay.
So, but there you go. But it's fine. It's better if you spell it properly, right? But now, see, look, can you create a game and set of questions and answers to teach a new developer how to do thread modeling for the app above, right? So, give it a cool name and use emojis. I usually go with taste, or else you can go quite off piste, right? So, call cyber sleuth thread defenders to engage, right? There you go. See? Look at this. Oh, wait. Okay, so so what's cool about this is so it's actually giving the answer, right? Can you see? But that's cool, right? Because it already gives you this, right? So so you have the thing, but can you see how really cool it is to do a game based on that particular application that is relevant to that particular thing? See, like what kind of risks associated with storing data like DB-NAT passwords in environments like Lambda? Now, this is very relevant to who the developer that wrote this. So still there?
I see.
Yeah.
I mean, what will be fantastic is I'll put the output of ChatGPT 3.5 or 3.5 on the repo. If you could also add the output that you have been generating,
I like
we could then create a branch on the Open Security Summit to keep these things also. But I mean, this is a place to start, right?
Yeah. see, look at the difference. See what happens now. So look at the power, right? See what happened. So I could have given this, right? So I could have say, hey, based on this, now run the game. So that would be the prompt, right? So you can see that now you got this. See, look, welcome to Cyber Sleuth. Your first mission identify hidden vulnerabilities, right? War, comment, blah, blah, blah. And then you can go like this, right? And then you type the answer, and then he gives you, he's going to give me a response, right? Based on correct answer, blah, 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 fantastic, identified. And then, but the other thing you can do, which is quite funny, right, is I can come in here, right, and I can say, okay, can you run for me? Can you provide highly sarcastic answers, for example, right? So it's not going to be for everybody, right? And comments to the user, to the player, responses, right? So I think this is not for everybody, but look, so now I'm going to say, let's step to the world of this, right? With a good attitude, right? So you can see it's going to change a little bit, right? Oh, a new cybersecurity not missed. Let's see if you can spot a vulnerability better than the cat spots a laser dot, right? So let's say I'm doing the wrong one, and now it's going to go, it should provide a nice, sort of, really, that's a cute guess. As in fact, there's those chocolate teapots. But don't worry, there's more fun ahead. Do you know what I mean? But I think that this makes a difference, right? And you can even put into context. So run this from the point of view of a retailer or a financial institution, or
you know what? I'll try these next week. I have my cybersecurity champions meeting next week. I'll provide an illustration of the system, and I'll let them play the game. Let's see what happens.
So what I'm doing with the cyber boardroom, right, is to try to create an environment that wraps this so that you don't see the middle bits. So for example, I'm using ChatGPT behind the scenes, but I, for example, just give you the options, and it will give you ABC, and then you click ABC, and then, so it's almost like wrap a little UI from a board member point of view, but make it much more interactive, much more kind of nicer. But the engine behind is sort of the logic of ChatGPT, which is really cool, right? So
it is definitely
good. All right, man. This has been great.
It's definitely a very different threat modeling session than I intended yesterday. But I think after discussing on scaling threat modeling, I really wanted to try a very good prompt for just flexing the prompt muscles.
yeah. And you can see how it works, right? Can you see how a lot more effective you are when you're finding blind spots versus creating from scratch? And I always felt that the problem with most people doing threat modeling was the start, right? It was that, how do I start? Where do I go? What's the first? And then you go to stride, and it's like guessing, where even if, that's jump starting that, hey, thanks guys. Nice comments there. But I look, just final one, like what we're doing here, literally me and Louis, is what we do in threat modeling. This is what we've been doing for the last 10 years, right? Literally, we've been ad-libbing, figuring this out. Even the stuff that Louis now is already very comfortable doing, the plan to ML. I remember when we started using that. I was like, well, this is really cool, right? We can now visualize the threat model. So I think what's nice about our industry is there's still so much ground to evolve, and practices like threat model are still very archaic if you compare to what they should be. So there's great space for innovation, which is really cool.
It is. I mean, it's been a fun session. I know, next Open Security Summit, let's do a different kata.
So, oh yeah, by then we're gonna have a bot. We're gonna have the Open Security Summit bot with us, right? Providing help and enhancing things like this, right?
I mean, it took me about the same time it would have taken me to draw the thing and walk through the case with creating the prompt, right? So the prompt was a lot of text and a lot of tweaking and a lot of following the rules but I mean, it's given us a good result. So we could perhaps next time start with a bad prompt and improve the prompt as we go to see how it improves.
Well, and to share it, right?
I mean, the idea is obviously to share it in such a session and have like the iterations, the prompts on a markdown file or something to keep it.
And that's one of the other bits I'm really looking at also with and playing around with the boardroom bot is that I'm creating 3 bots, right? So I'll go in detail the session, but I'm creating 3 bots, and each bot basically contains information. One is Minerva, one is Athena, which does the board. The advised one is Odin, which is actually does the backend stuff, and one is Minerva, which does the business stuff. So you kind of have a mix of multiple bots playing together, which is, when it works, it's going to be pretty cool. All right, man, this is good stuff. I think this has been a pretty good session, man. Like, this has been a really, really nice session.
It was really, really fun. Thank you for your interaction. I mean, it was great to see how you use it. I mean, I saw your reading list for the summer, and I was like envious of where you find the time to read so much.
Yeah, but it's like I was telling you, like the point of having those books, although I drove to Portugal so I could bring it, so my wife didn't complain that I brought a bag just for books, right? But I felt that I had the books I needed to read in the sequence that I wanted to read them. So and that allowed me to do is allow me to go quite deep. And then one of the things I realized was that the action was not in the models. The more depth I went, the more I realized the history of it and where we were and the innovations. And the more I understood how GPT worked, the more I realized that the action is not in the models, is in the prompts, is in maybe even be the training of it, right? But that's where I became quite interested. But I was able to almost read the book in sequence that I needed to. So I needed the 30 books. So I didn't really.
So I mean, I remember your list was like 10 books. So out of the 10, which one was the best?
There was a couple. I think the O'Reilly GPT Transformers was really good. You had.
All right, so I'll get that one. O'Reilly GPT Transformers. I'll get that.
I think it's that one. Yeah.
I'm using you as my chat GPT.
Yeah.
You're my Dini's GPT, and I cut to 10 books to 1. That's good enough for me.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Take care.
On that note.